Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you what has happened in tech in 2011 and what has most mattered to me in the past 12 months. In January, ASUS announced and launched the Transformer ePad slider with Tegra 2 processors at CES. Apple and Verizon announced that the iPhone 4 was coming to Verizon Wireless. Nintendo announced that the Nintendo 3DS was coming for $250 and with glasses-free 3D technology with a March 27 release in the US and 25th for European gamers. Also in January, Sony announced the NGP next generation PlayStation Portable and it had Cortex A9 processors and a 5-inch OLED screen. In February, the Verizon iPhone launch set an all-time record sales on the first day. Also in February, Samsung announced the Samsung Galaxy S2 and Samsung Galaxy Tab 10.1. In February, IBM's million-dollar Watson computer beat a bunch of Harvard graduates on the Jeopardy game. Also in February, Apple announced the Intel's Lightpeak standard, which was called Thunderbolt and which debuted in this year's MacBook Pro lineup. In March, Apple announced officially the iPad 2 coming to stores with a 1GHz dual-core A5 chip with front and rear-facing cameras which revolutionized the iPad and tablet market. Also in March, Verizon launched their first 4G LTE handset which was the HTC Thunderbolt. In March, Samsung decreased the size of their 10.1-inch Galaxy Tab tablet to 8.9-inch. Also in March, Amazon announced and launched the Amazon Cloud Player. In April, Apple sued Samsung for what? For allegedly copying the iPhone and iPad design. Also in April, RIM's Research in Motion launched the BlackBerry Playbook with basic software like native email and calendar apps. In April, UK researchers exposed a feature in iOS 4 which constantly collected location data and many consumers were angry with Apple. Also in April, the PSN was down and many consumers and players could not play their games like Call of Duty Black Ops with online services. And finally in April, the white iPhone 5 finally came to the market. In May, with too much money to spend, Microsoft bought Skype for an $8.5 billion deal. Also in May, Google announced and launched their Google Music service, which was a cloud-based music service. In May, Google announced at their I/O conference that they were launching two Chromebooks which runs on their cloud-based Chrome OS and Acer was gonna make them. In May, Microsoft officially announced the Windows Phone 7, which was codenamed Mango with Internet Explorer 9 and more dynamic live tiles. And in May, Google announced their Google Wallet, which was a NFC-based system which you could buy stuff and in retail stores with your handphone and smartphones. Partners included Macy's, Toys R Us, and Subway. In May, the term Ultrabooks was coined by the Intel's Sean Maloney, which Ultrabooks were basically very thin computers which had below $1,000 price tags and were very power efficient. In June, the PSN account had 77 million accounts hacked and Laos security was to blame. Many consumers were angry and Sony finally apologized at the E3 conference. In June, Steve Jobs launched iCloud and iTunes Match at the WWDC 2011. At E3, Sony also announced the NGP, which they named PS Vita, and it retailed for $250 and $299 for Wi-Fi and 3G models respectively. The hardware was very good and the battery life was short. Also in June, at the Nintendo E3 conference, the Wii U was announced with a 6.2-inch touchscreen controller and very good graphics. Finally, we come to July, and Netflix divided the service into two, offering either DVD only or streaming only unlimited plans, and this angered many consumers. In July, Steve Jobs also announced and launched OS X Lion with some 250 new features. The Thunderbolt I/O was also announced with the 27-inch Thunderbolt display and a new Mac Mini. In July, Nintendo announced that the cost of the 3DS will be dropped by a full $80, and this really increased the sales as the sales were not doing as well as expected. In August, HTC invested $300 million into Dr. Dre's Beats technology, and both of them were partnered with each other, and they produced the smartphones Sensation XE and Sensation XL later. Also in August, Google was kind of hungry, and they purchased Motorola Mobility for $12.5 billion, which gave them a hardware and software company which they could make their OS and their phones. In August, HP finally announced that they were discontinuing WebOS, such that the HP touchpad fell to a $99 price tag and there was a massive sale. In August, Steve Jobs stepped down from his position as Apple CEO because he was struggling with pancreatic cancer, but he will still remain chairman of the board. And finally, in August, the Samsung Galaxy S2, it finally came to the US after 6 months delayed. We finally come to the month of September, and at IFA, Samsung rolled out the 5.3-inch Galaxy Note, along with their Galaxy Tab 7.7 and the Wave 3. Also at IFA, Aspire Acer announced that they will launch Aspire S3, and many Ultrabooks finally came with their low weight and challenging the MacBook Air. Also in September, Microsoft kicked off its Build conference and also showed to the public and showed to many developers their new operating system, Windows 8, which is gonna come out this year. They had a Metro-style UI and graphic elements of Windows Phone 7. Also in September 19, Netflix divided their entire company into something called Quickster, and I'm not so sure because I don't really care about Netflix. I'm sorry, Netflix. And in September, HP, the CEO, stepped down, and former eBay CEO Meg Whitman took over. And finally, the biggest announcement, which comes from September, and Amazon announced that Kindle Fire was gonna come in 2011 at Q4 with a $199 price tag, which challenged the iPad 2. October came and the iPhone 4S was launched in October 4. The voice of Siri got everyone talking, and it had a dual-core A5 CPU with an improved camera. Tragically, the next day, October 5, Steve Jobs died at the age of 56, and stepping down as CEO as Apple and naming Tim Cook as his successor. Many people were very sad. October 13, RIM founder Research in Motion issued a public apology following a global outage of BlackBerry services, including the BBM, which made many consumers very angry. Also in October, Samsung announced the Galaxy Nexus in Hong Kong, and it was a real rival to the iPhone 4S, which sported a 4.65-inch screen with a HD Super AMOLED display and a 1.2 GHz dual-core processor. Also in October, Google in Hong Kong also showed off to the public and many reporters Android OS Ice Cream Sandwich 4.0. And also in October, Lytro announced and showed to the world its first consumer light field camera, which allowed people to focus their pictures only after editing it, which was really cool. And finally, in October, at Nokia World, Nokia announced the Lumia 800, which had the Windows Phone OS alongside with its smaller device, the Lumia 710. November finally comes, and the Christmas shopping is bound to start. So Motorola launches their Zoom 2, and which is the tablet of and the successor of the Zoom with a new sweet OS and nice edges. Also in November, Barnes & Nobles alongside with Amazon launched their Barnes & Nobles Nook tablet, which was supposed to rival the Kindle Fire. In November, the Asus ePad Transformer Prime, a successor to the Asus ePad Transformer, featured the first tablet with Tegra 3 processors, which had a quad-core processor. In November, Adobe finally announced that the Flash player for mobile platform was dead and blamed it because iOS did not use it. In November, the SOPA Act was talked about, and Stop Online Piracy Act basically, and many companies and consumers were actually against it. Finally, we come to the 12th month of the year, and 2011 is going to end. On the 1st of December, it turns out that someone found out named Trevor Eckhart. He made a YouTube video which showed something called Carrier IQ, which carriers and such as Verizon Wireless and AT&T were tracking, had a sneaky program in phones that tracked data and everything, and many consumers were also very angry, and it was not a good month. In December, the next day, on number 2, RIM Research in Motion announced that they have had a $485 million loss, which was very sad because no one wants a loss on Christmas. On the December 15, the Samsung Galaxy Nexus finally got the LTE treatment, and because they came to Verizon Wireless. But they had poor battery life because of LTE, and HSPA Plus version was actually had a better battery life. And finally, the last story, and nearing Christmas on December 21st, Microsoft announced that they were going to scale back their operations at CES because their January timeline in CES did not coincide with their product launches. And thus Christmas came, and everyone went shopping, and many bought many tech products. So that's basically it. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, and this is basically Tech in 2011 and the major milestones in tech history. Thanks for watching.